They fined my widowed mother for flying the American flag. Not because it was torn, not because it was oversized, not because it was damaged, but because, according to Karen, it made the neighborhood emotional. That flag was the last thing my mom had left of my dad. He was a veteran, folded flag, military funeral, the whole thing. After he passed, my mom mounted that flag on the porch, the same porch he used to sit on every evening. Then Karen showed up, clipboard, sunglasses, smirk. She told my grieving mother that flags were restricted decor and that if it wasn't removed in 24 hours, fines would begin. $100 a day. No exceptions. No sympathy. My mom cried. Karen didn't care. She said, rules are rules. Personal loss doesn't override HOA policy. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about rules. This was about power. Before I go any further, if this story already makes your blood boil, hit like, subscribe, and share this video so more people see what HOAs are really doing behind closed doors. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? I read every single one, because what happened next didn't just humiliate Karen, it exposed her to the entire community and turned my quiet grieving mother into someone Karen never saw coming. 2 weeks after the funeral, the letter arrived. Not a condolence card, not a "we're here if you need anything," a warning. It came in a stiff white envelope stamped with the HOA seal, slid under Margaret's door like a quiet threat. She read it once, then again. Then she had to sit down. Violation notice, unauthorized display. Removal required within 72 hours. Her crime, the American flag flying gently from the pole her late husband had installed with his own hands. Margaret couldn't understand it. The flag had been there for years, on holidays, on quiet mornings, on days her husband sat outside polishing the pole like it was sacred. No one had complained then. So she walked, slowly, over to the HOA office. The woman at the desk didn't look up at first. When she did, her voice was clipped and rehearsed. Flags are only permitted on federal holidays. That's in the bylaws. Margaret swallowed. My husband just died, she said softly. He was a veteran. The woman nodded, unmoved. I'm sorry for your loss, but rules are rules. That sentence hit harder than the letter. That evening, neighbors noticed Margaret sitting on her porch, staring at the flag as the sun dipped behind the houses. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just sat there, widow, patriot, rule breaker. By the next morning, a second notice appeared. This one came with a fine. That's when something shifted. Because Margaret didn't just see a flag anymore, she saw her husband's service, their shared life, and a line that had been crossed. And quietly, very quietly, she decided she wasn't taking it down. By the third day, the flag was still there, and the HOA was furious. Margaret woke up to a bright orange notice taped to her door, final warning, with a fine that had doubled overnight. If she didn't comply by sunset, legal action would begin. That was the moment the neighborhood noticed something was wrong. Mrs. Alvarez from 2 houses down paused during her morning walk. Why are they harassing her? She asked out loud. By noon, people were whispering. By evening, they were choosing sides. The HOA president drove by slowly, twice, taking photos like evidence from a crime scene. Margaret watched from her window, hands shaking, heart pounding. For the first time since the funeral, fear crept in. What if they sued her? What if she lost the house she and her husband had built their life in? Still, she didn't touch the flag. Instead, she did something unexpected. She placed her husband's folded military uniform on the table beneath it, right where the fabric could be seen through the window. Then she sat beside it and waited. That night, a neighbor knocked. Then another. One brought cookies. Another brought a small flag of their own. A retired Marine stood quietly on her porch and saluted the pole without saying a word. By morning, 3 more flags were flying down the street. The HOA sent emails, threats, reminders of community standards, but they couldn't stop what had started, because this was no longer about a widow or a rule. It was about dignity. And the HOA was about to learn what happens when rules collide with public conscience. The HOA emergency meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening. They expected silence. They expected compliance. They expected Margaret to finally take the flag down. Instead, the clubhouse parking lot overflowed. Neighbors showed up early, some standing, some sitting on car hoods, some holding folded flags against their chests. A few veterans wore their old caps. One man came in uniform. Margaret arrived last. She walked slowly, dressed in black, holding a single folder. The room went quiet the moment she stepped inside. The HOA president cleared his throat and began reading bylaws, paragraphs, clauses, penalties. He spoke like this was routine. When he finished, Margaret stood. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She opened the folder and placed one item on the table, her husband's military discharge papers. Then she spoke. My husband flew that flag for 32 years, she said softly. He didn't ask permission to serve, and I won't ask permission to honor him. No one interrupted. A Marine veteran stood up next. Then another neighbor. Then Mrs. Alvarez. One by one, voices filled the room. Calm, firm, undeniable. The HOA lawyer whispered something urgently. 10 minutes later, the president announced a temporary suspension of enforcement. By the next morning, the rule was quietly removed. No apology, just silence. But outside, the flags stayed. Margaret returned home that night and sat beneath the pole as the fabric moved gently in the wind. For the first time since the funeral, she smiled. Not because she had won, but because she had been seen. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever seen rules used to hurt instead of protect? Or stood up for someone when it mattered most? Share your experience in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support these real HOA stories. And tell us, where are you watching from?